Welcome aboard, everybody. Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital at MC Show Digital. As you see in the screen next to me, it is Bud Poliquin. That means time for Brunch with Bud as we rock it here off on a Tuesday, May 12th. We are presented today by Northeast Roofing Professionals, and our video today brought to you by our friends at Cam's Pizzeria, where it is always love at first slice. Locations in Camillus and also up in Oswego. Go see our friends at Cam's today. But good afternoon. How are you, sir?
I'm just peachy, Jimmy boy. How about you?
I'm peachy. I've been particularly peachy when my Knicks go 4 games and the old brooms are sweeping out the door in Philadelphia. The Villanova connection, going back to their roots and getting the job done. Of course, I'm talking about some of my Knicks players. The Knicks sweep Philly, Bud. Let's talk about it. And I have this question for you. Let's just get this over with right off the top here of our Knicks discussion. Bud, do you believe in the New York Knickerbockers?
Well, I believe that they're going to represent the JV division in the NBA Finals. Yes, they do.
That's a low blow.
You know, I think they're going to beat the Pistons or Cavaliers, I think. But I do know that it probably ends there. The other team, the other team's pretty good now. The other team being, the Thunder. If San Antonio and the Thunder do play, and Minnesota might, topple that apple cart. That's going to be a heck of a series, won't imagine. But the winner of that series, I think, would be Oklahoma City. And then I think Oklahoma City would have its way with the Knicks as it's had its way. They're 8-0 in the playoffs. So I don't know why anybody would think the Knicks would have a chance against them. But, yes, I believe in the Knicks to go to the NBA Finals. Yes.
Bud, because it's like the Russian man. Once you cut him and he's human, then the whole thing changes and a little guy can get the job done. You know, Maximus in the movie Gladiator, remember, stood before that crowd in that flea-bitten place where he was originally doing his first gladiator matches. And he screamed to them, "Are you not entertained?" All right. I ask you, Bud, are you not impressed with my New York Knicks? You must be impressed. Come on. The Knicks are doing things that the Knicks and other NBA teams in the history of the league have never done. Right. The blowout cremations, 7 wins in a row now in the playoffs, tying both the 3-point-1 quarter and halftime marks in the history of basketball playoffs and regular season. They're shooting the lights out. Karl Towns is a distributor now. Jalen Brunson continues to do his thing. Hey, in the last 2 games, we did it without OG Anunoby. We didn't even need him to blow the Sixers' doors out. And let's not forget all the trouble that the Sixers and the Celtics had together. I mean, that was a legitimate series. This thing was a legitimate blowout. You must at least be impressed with my Knicks, even though you're insulting them by calling them a JV outfit. I do not like you today.
Well, I can't. I don't want to bore. Oh, gotta get my hands down. I don't want to bore the the viewers and the listeners by just repeating what you said, but I can't argue with you. They're playing spectacularly, and I think that you would be the one that would have to say you did not see this coming. You did not have any expectations on this level, and I think if you honestly say that, which you must say, that speaks volumes. That a dyed-in-the-wool guy like you would say, "Hey, they're even blowing my doors off with how good they are. They're good. They're playing great." But the other side is going to show up with something special. That Oklahoma City team is pretty good.
Well, it's the old, if you've never lost, I hope they waltz into that finals having not lost a game, because there'll have been no blood drawn. And then they'll go out there in game 1 and they'll lose one. And then all of a sudden, whoa, hey, wait a minute. Look out, the ship is rocking, baby. That's what I hope.
Now I'll tell you something.
They're a pretty good squad, Bud.
You haven't been paying attention. They will not succumb to that, even if they lost, that opening game. They're young, but they are really, really good, and they don't rattle. And that 7th game, the 4th game against the Lakers, they were down against mighty LeBron in LA in the last minute. Okay, well, we're all right. We're going to win. They were down by 5 with, late in the 4th quarter on the road against LeBron. We're all right. Now, they're not haughty. Don't get me wrong. They're not thinking, well, this is a cakewalk. but they're just not going to just mail it. They're not going to ever mail it in. It's a really good club and a really good coach, by the way.
I'll offer one more movie reference here, but I don't know.
Yes.
I'm in movie reference mode today. All right.
Yeah.
But of course, I know you love and will certainly remember the movie The Natural with Robert Redford, the baseball movie. A fantastic movie, one of the all-time great baseball movies. And in the movie, you remember the scene where the little bespectacled doctor says, "Losing is a disease like syphilis. Losing is a disease like bubonic plague." And Roy Hobbs walks out of the room. I offer this thought, Bud, just one more nugget for my Knick faithful out there who are feeling the same way as you, that this might be the varsity against the JV when we get to the finals. I offer this, okay? Isaiah Hartenstein is on that roster. Isaiah Hartenstein knows about losing. He played for the Knicks not all that long ago and came to understand that losing is part of life. Perhaps that disease spreads like bubonic plague to the rest of these players on this team. After all, you're bringing in some Knick genes, dare I say, into that locker room in OKC. I mean, I just think it's spreadable, but losing can be a disease. And that's what we're hoping when we get to the finals, baby.
You know, that scene reminds me of a parent. I wasn't there, obviously, but my kid was a decent baseball player, both in high school and college. And apparently it was at FM high school, and they had a bad loss, or they're losing a couple games or something. And before the coach came in the locker room to ream them, my kid got up in front of everybody and did that did that whole scene.
I love it.
And so when the coach came in, he caught the tail end of it. And he was the guy who was going to, ream his players was ended up laughing and stuff because, Nathan did the impersonation just like you did. Yeah. I would have loved to have been there for that. But anyway, yeah, there you go. Now, I mentioned LeBron, and we were talking before we turned on the cameras and the mics here. LeBron, I'll ask you, is LeBron coming back? And if so, where?
Here's the thing with athletes that I've learned over years and years and years of covering them. And of course, there are always exceptions to the rule. But frankly, most of the time, Bud, I like playing the odds. Okay? I think the odds are forever in your favor, right? May the odds forever be in your favor. And a Hunger Games reference. I'm going in all kinds of directions today with movies. Here's the thought here. Players, for the most part, never hang it up when they should. The Jim Browns of the world almost rarely come on the scene to leave the game on top, to leave the game at a high point, to leave the game at a moment. And LeBron James, well, it seems like everything. He's played a couple years now with his son on the same roster. He's ended with a legendary organization. He won a championship with them in the bubble, okay? He went back to Cleveland and reclaimed the city and won a championship for them after all those years. To me, he's just destined to keep playing until someone says to him, "We don't want you anymore." That's what these guys do. Kareem did it. We can just go down the list of great players, all-time great players that just didn't hang them up until someone basically said, "All right, we've had enough." And I think LeBron, as much as he seems a logical fellow, as much as he seems a level-headed fellow, as much as it seems like he's already the all-time scorer, he's got everything. All right? Yet somehow, some way, I see him finding a way to get back. And I don't know if that's with the Lakers. I don't know if that's going to go back to Cleveland one more time. Is he even interested in doing that? Try and win one more there? Does he want to go to New York, play with the Knicks? I don't know what he wants to do. But I'm telling you, I think this guy's still going to play at least one more season. That's my gut.
Well, we agree. I think he's going to come back. And the one thing that you have to throw into the mix here, real people work until they're in their 60s. And real people are generally in their prime professionally in their 30s and 40s, and dare I say their 50s. Mm-hmm. And athletes are told at the time that most people are just growing into their careers, they're told you're finished, time to leave. Yeah. And I don't think that a person is ready to leave at 35, 38, right? And 40. It's not natural. Yeah. So when these guys hang on, as they inevitably do, as you've pointed out, one of the things you have to take into account is who among us would walk away at 35 and 40? Because after all, we're just getting into it. We're getting into life. We're getting into not even middle age at that point, whatever middle age is. So that's one thing. When you say to someone, hey, he's 35, he's 36, 38, 40, You got to retire, man. You're old. Old in the real world at 38, you're still a kid. So that's one. I think he stays with the Lakers because he's got a brand new house out there, brand new in the last couple of years. So he's got a mansion, he's got a castle he lives in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. He's playing with his son. And I don't know that any other team would take his son unless that was part of the deal of going to Cleveland or New York. Mm-hmm. So I'm LeBron. I'm settled in my castle. This is LA. I'm living with my family. I've got my son on the team, and I don't know if Bronny's living in his house or not. I don't know where he's living, but Bronny might actually be living at home still with mom and dad. And I don't know why you leave. Now, the only reason you'd leave would be for money, I think. And if you don't want to play the third fiddle, which he'd be if Reeves re-signs with the Lakers, and why wouldn't he? So, money, how much does he need? He's a billionaire.
That's the funny thing about him too is that he's never taken a discount, but so the Lakers, assuming he stays at the Lakers, they will have to pay him again, whether it's another 1 year deal.
No, but they won't pay him 50. They won't pay him the 50 million. He's going to have to come in cheap at like 25 and 30 million. Right. Heavy cheap. I can bring my fingers in for this.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
But he's a billionaire. I mean, at what point do you just say, what's the difference if I throw another 30 million on the pot when I've already got $1 billion?
But he's as much businessman as he is basketball.
I understand, and you can never be too rich and you can never be too skinny. I understand that. But I think living at home, playing it out at home with your son on the roster and your wife in the stands, and you're playing with Doncic and Reeves, and who knows what they're going to get, who else they're going to get. I think it's a pretty sweet deal. I think he stays. Yeah. And he certainly is going to play. He's not going to not play. He's going to play.
All right, let's get into some other NBA news and notes. How about Victor Wembanyama and the elbow, Bud? What did you think of that? He was ejected from the game. He is not going to be suspended. This is a tight series, so it would have been devastating even if he had been suspended a game. Did the NBA make the right decision here?
Well, from a business point of view, absolutely. I mean, you cannot deny the fans Victor Wembanyama is the best player in the world, according to a growing number of people. So you can't take your marquee player off the court. Your sponsors would have gone nuts. Your TV networks would have gone nuts. You can't do that. And all he was quote unquote defending himself. Okay, it wasn't like he has a history of being a bully or a brute. It wasn't as if he was spending that game being a brute. He just got fed up with all the poking and shoving and all that. It got away from him. So they did the right thing, toss him out of the game, for sure. But you have to bring him back. That was a smart thing, and they've done it. The one thing that I'll be sympathetic to these guys is on this level. The closer you get to the basket, by and large, the more mayhem is allowed to happen. You're out front and you make a dirty look at James Harden, you get a foul called on you. But you go inside and suddenly these big guys are big and strong and they can take it, quote unquote. So I think if you're a big guy, you say, wait a minute, that little guy, and by little guy, I mean a 6'3" guy, my little guy out there, he's getting touched and they're calling fouls. I'm getting battered in here and they just say play on. Well, you're a big guy, you can take it. So there is a double standard, and I think these big guys get a little bit upset. And the other night, the Wembanyama got upset enough that they tossed him out. If you look at the back, let's take the biggest of the strongest of the brutish guys of all was probably Shaquille O'Neal. And I'm telling you, that guy got fouled every time he touched the ball. Now, he fouled a lot himself. He would just bowl people over. So it went both ways. I mean, he had so many offensive fouls that were never called. But Shaquille O'Neal got fouled all the time, and he almost never lost his temper, which is amazing. Wilt Chamberlain got fouled all the time. He almost never lost his temper, which was amazing. So these big guys are interesting. The Wembanyama thing, it happened. It's over. Play on.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. All right. Let's switch gears. Talk a little baseball. But before we do that, let's get a word from our sponsor, Cam's Pizzeria. Word is always love at first slice. Then we go to baseball. Stick around.
When you think of Cam's Pizzeria, think about two of your favorites. Their zesty buffalo chicken wing pizza or their tasty chicken bacon ranch. Over 16 specialty pizzas made fresh daily with the best ingredients. Indulge in their homemade calzones, subs, wraps, salads, and their famous cannolis for dessert. They're all made with love just for you. Order online for 10% off at camspizza.com. Locations in Camillus and Oswego. Cam's Pizzeria. It's love at first slice.
Finding the right local roofing company can be tricky. You don't want to hire the wrong roofers, or you could end up spending a fortune on repairs. The pros at Northeast Roofing Professionals can ensure your home is protected by a strong and sturdy roof. Locally owned and operated, over 30 years experience, free estimates, and competitively priced. Don't settle for an inexperienced roofing contractor. Turn to Northeast Roofing Professionals. Discounts for military and first responders. Reach out and let them put a sturdy roof over your head. NERPCNY.com. NERPCNY.com.
All right, we are back. Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital at MC Show Digital. Is Manchild solo today, doing a little brunch with Bud. My old pal Bud Poliquin in the house, talking all things sports. We've been through the NBA, the LeBron James, Victor Wembanyama story, my great Knicks, who, by the way, Bud, before we move on, I will say one thing. At the beginning of these playoffs, what you said about me earlier is probably correct. You couldn't imagine the Knicks being in this situation. You're right. Okay. All right. Yeah, maybe. You know, based on what I saw during the regular season, based on what I saw in the first 3 games of that Atlanta series, I was like, oh boy, this is not going the way that I thought. Since that time, Bud, not only have the Knicks taken over in terms of the chatter of the NBA, but I actually have faith, as the great Walt Clyde Frazier said just a few days ago, Bud, that there are similarities team-wise between those 1970 and 1973 Knicks championship teams and this team, that perhaps the sum of the parts, okay, equals a greater whole than the superstars that are over there in OKC land. So you ask me, do I have any faith that the Knicks can win an NBA title this year? I tell you, in the last week and a half, my faith has grown to the point where I actually don't have to squint anymore. I could actually see it happen. So I'm just going on the record saying that now, so it's not like later on when they're, up 2-1 in that series that I'm saying, oh, see, I told you they could win. I'm telling you now, I believe that they can win.
Well,
and I would have said that at the beginning of the playoffs.
They can't win. They can't win.
Okay. You say so.
Assuming everybody's healthy. Now, wait, I got to ask, do you Knicks fans ever listen yourselves?
Yes.
You guys always are talking about Willis Reed.
I know.
Yes. You're always talking about Willis Reed.
Okay.
Walt Frazier. These guys won 2 titles 100 years ago, and you're still talking about them.
It's 50-ish, but okay.
Stop it already. You were talking about 70s? This is 2025. No, it's not. It's 2026.
Just making a comparison between those teams and this team. There's some similarities here. Feeling like it's right, but
you Knicks fans slay me. You win a couple of titles 100 years ago, and you can't stop talking about it.
But the Cubs came back and won one. The Red Sox came back and won one. Was anybody predicting those? No. Don't count them out. You know sports. You can't count them out. Can't do it. I know you want to do it. Can't do it.
All right. We'll see. I'm just telling you right now. If the Thunder is healthy, there's no beating them except maybe Wembanyama and those guys. Those Spurs are really good too. Maybe something happens there, but nothing's happening. When
the Spurs, the only team left that could potentially beat OKC.
Correct. You know that too. By
Spurs
the way,
got to figure out how to win their series that they're currently in right now before they start.
Correct.
That
Correct.
Series. We'll see.
Anyway.
We'll see. Like I said, I want Wemby. I want him in the finals, baby. I like my chances a lot better against him. Than
Oh yeah.
I think the Knicks have more than a puncher's chance against Wemby and the Spurs because of their youth and some of their, they just don't have all of the moxie, I think, that OKC does. All right. Anyway, I promised baseball. Let's move to baseball. Okay. Major League Baseball sitting down with the players union, the owners and the players sitting down, trying to come up with a new CBA, Bud. Is this going to be another one of these drag them outs? Is this going to be nasty? Is this going to create work stoppages? Tell us what you think. Give us a kind of an early prediction and what is the landscape here in terms of what these two sides are looking at and whether or not this is going to turn into an all-out brawl between the two sides.
All right, so we don't know how much of this is posturing, on either side. But I think we do know that the owners have been simmering for years, for decades, with this idea of a non salary cap world that they live in.
Mm-hmm.
And they cannot control themselves as you see these ridiculous salaries that are being tossed around. So they absolutely are of the opinion that enough's enough is enough. We have to have a salary cap. If they hold to that, and that is what they're talking about, then baseball fans have better be prepared that this could be the last season we have, the last full season we have. I'm not going to say for a while, but going into next year, we may not get the full season. We may not even get baseball. Because if the owners are as entrenched as they tell us they are, then the negotiation is a difficult one because that is their thing. We're not pulling off of this. The players have to help us. The players have to work with us. My position on this is pretty simple. We should all just say, if you folks, the old billionaires versus millionaires argument, if you folks can't get this decided, don't expect me to be sympathetic to either side. And don't expect me to care too much when you come back. If you come back, they'll come back sooner or later. But the point of the matter is, I do believe that if the posturing is more than that, this could be dangerous in context. This could be a dangerous debate, discussion, a lot of rancor. And baseball, enjoy the season of World Series because it might not be back all that quickly next year.
Always these labor negotiations seem to be tough, particularly in the sport of baseball. Bud, you mentioned this when we talked a couple of weeks ago, and I want to revisit it with you about the state of baseball, and in particular, the good teams and the bad teams, because you are always rolling out stats on this. So give me some stats. Give me some hard stats. Well, and is this bad for baseball that there are good teams and these days a lot of bad teams?
Yeah.
A lot of bad teams.
Well, we've been in the status quo here this season with the American League for quite a while now. I mean, we're a quarter of the way through the season. And this morning, the baseball world looked at the standings and saw that in the American League particularly, there are only 4 teams with winning records out of 15. That's 11 out of 15 teams have losing records.
Easy.
And 2 of the teams with winning records are 1 game over 500. The other one's 2 games over 500.
Wow.
So the only teams in the American League that have distinguished themselves positively are the Yankees and the Tampa Bay Rays. And it's weird because the Yankees are, loaded with money and with talent. And Tampa Bay, I mean, there are people across baseball America who can't name 5 guys on that team. And right now, the Tampa Bay Rays have the second best record in all of baseball, including a better record than the Yankees. So weird things are happening. And I don't mean to beat the dead horse because we have kind of talked about this in past episodes. But it's odd to me that 11 out of 15 teams are not playing winning baseball on one side. The National League is a little more, appropriate. They've got 8 out of 15 winning records. But it's hard to explain 11 out of 15, having losing records. The other thing about baseball that's really bothering me, and it's in basketball too, is, and again, we've talked about this, and I'm just, every time you pick up, the quote unquote newspaper with your phone, get on the internet, whatever, the stories are oftentimes as much about injuries as they are about on-field, on-court accomplishments. The number of people who are going down with injuries over every part of their bodies is stunning to me. That we have, at a time when these people are physical specimens, we have seemingly way more injuries now than we've ever had before, particularly in baseball and basketball. And every time you turn around, we got another pitcher going out with something or other in his shoulder or his elbow, in his forearm. And that, of course, is that these pitchers are being taught spin rates and velocity, and they're not really being taught how to pitch. And I just wonder, and I'm only wondering because these guys weren't that long ago. Would Glavine, would Maddox, would they be as effective to now? Would they be more effective? Would they be less effective? Because they never, ever blew people away with fastballs. They pitched. There was an art to what they did. They weren't the only ones, but they were the most successful, both 300-game winners.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you're not really considered worthwhile unless you blow the ball 95 to 102, 103 miles an hour. Not unless you have this incredible spin rate. The location and outthinking the hitter and so on seems to be a secondary thing. And with the velocity, with the spin rate, you're getting all these injuries. I don't know that Maddox was ever on the injured reserve list, or the DL, I should say. That's football. I don't know that he's ever on the DL. We'd have to look that up. I don't know how often Glavine was on the DL. And that's just the pitchers. I mean, everybody's getting hurt. Anyway, I'm carrying on here, but I just wish that somehow, some way, we could crack the code on injuries in basketball and baseball. We as fans deserve to see the best players on the field, on the court. We're not seeing that. And is it bad? Must the training regimen change? Must the approach to these sports change? Are these guys a little softer than the old days? Back in the old days, they'd rub a little liniment on their shoulder and they'd go and pitch. That's the way, we think they did it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm at a loss. So I don't know why the American League teams stink, and I don't know why so many people are getting hurt, except I just wonder if there's an emphasis on things that just break bodies down.
One more nugget here on baseball, Bud, and it could lead to a little bit more of a discussion between the two of us here. But first, the piece of news. The piece of news is that A.J. Ewing, the top prospect in the Mets minor league organization, has now been called up to the big Mets. Now, I just saw Ewing play about 2 weeks ago. He's only been with the Syracuse Mets just for a couple of weeks. Came up from the Double-A team, the Binghamton Rumble Ponies, just about an hour south of us here. And was hitting the cover off the ball there, and then was hitting the cover off the ball here. And the Mets have injuries in the outfield, so up he goes. Okay, 21 years old. But it leads to a bigger discussion. This isn't a discussion necessarily about this one player. This is a discussion about the Mets with the richest owner in baseball saying he will spend money, and he has in the last few years, to try to build a winner, to try to find those complementary pieces to put a winner together in New York on that side of the Hudson. And they've been unable to do it. And for the second season in a row, the vets are failing miserably. But the youngsters, okay, seem to be the foundation that actually keeps them respectable. In the case of last year, got them, essentially a lot further than anybody thought they would go. And it seems like the formula is happening all over again this year, Bud. They brought up Carson Benj, who was their top prospect. He's up there. We know Alvarez has been up for a couple of seasons. He was their top prospect. And now you've got A.J. Ewing, another guy that was drafted in the 4th round, climbed the ladder to become their top prospect. Now he's up there. It's like they're going to the youngsters to save him. Meanwhile, they're spending all this money on the vets, and the vets aren't delivering. So what's the formula these days for building a winning baseball team? What's the formula? Is there one or not?
Well, the formula is to get a Bobby Witt Jr. and sign him to a big contract, because you have every expectation that he's going to be a great player for a long time. I'm not sure I'd be so quick to sign, the Kyle Tuckers of baseball. He's getting $60 million a year for 3 or 4 years. $60 million for he's a very good player, but he's just a guy within the very good player universe. He's not a great player. He's not a superstar player. He's just a really nice player who every team wants in the lineup. But if you look at his stats, and yet we're giving that kind of money to him. I think what you do is you find the young rocks upon which you build your baseball church. And you say, okay, I'm going to ride with these guys. And sometimes it pays off and sometimes it doesn't. Now, the Red Sox signed a lot of guys, young guys. The Pirates just signed their shortstop, a young guy.
Yep.
I'm losing track. Somebody else just signed their shortstop, a young guy, for 6, 7, 8 years or whatever. I would go with youth is what I would do. And I'd let the, as much as I like Pete Alonso, you let him walk. You just say, Pete, you're a really good player, but not for that kind of money. And we can better spend our money. And it's funny, Alonso left the Mets and people thought that's going to hurt the Mets. And it looks like it might have. But he went to the Orioles and they thought that he would help the Orioles. And it looks like he's hurting the Orioles. He's not hitting. He's in a semi-bandbox and he's not hitting for the Orioles. I guess it's a roundabout way of saying that I'd be very careful who I would give money to long term. and especially be very careful who I gave among pitchers long-term contracts. Everybody's talking about Scooble with the Tigers. Well, he's had, this is his third surgery, and they're thinking he's going to get $300+ million. Well, really? Could it be maybe we've seen the best of him, and maybe you give that money to somebody else? I don't know. Maybe the Tampa Bay approach is the approach. I don't know. But you bring up a good point. What is the deal? How come the Stars? How come the Stars aren't starring? And should you go for the phenoms and hope they phenomenate for you? I don't know.
Bud, two more things before we go. The first one, just a curiosity, but since we are in a video world, I can't ignore it. Is that a skunk over your right shoulder? Is that a skunk? It looks and appears to be a skunk. And if so, what is the meaning of that skunk over there?
Well, as I've alluded, or people know that we have now three grandchildren, and they all live with their parents in Martha's Vineyard. Well, anybody who's been to Martha's Vineyard knows that they have a skunk problem in Martha's Vineyard.
I didn't know that.
I mean, there'll be skunks walking down the boulevard. They're just walking down the street. They're not
live
scared.
Among the skunks.
Yeah, they're not scared of people. They're almost, I don't want to overstate, but they're almost like squirrels are here. You see a squirrel in the yard and you don't think much of it.
Right.
And they got skunks. Well, I'm not a skunk guy because they're not. I'm not a skunk guy.
Yeah, that would.
So the boys make fun of me because I'm quote unquote scared of skunks, but I'm scared of chipmunks too. So I'm scared of everything out there. So they got me this skunk as a gag, to make me
it's a gag
jump.
gift.
Okay. So it's a gag gift from the boys because they know I'm not a skunk guy and they live among the skunks and it doesn't bother. They just doesn't bother them at all. There's a skunk in the yard. Big deal.
Just another skunk. All right.
I remember we're walking one day. We're walking in a place called the who cares? We were walking in a neighborhood there in Oak Bluffs and the campground. It's called, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of walking ahead of the group. We had a group of like 6 of us, the family and whatnot, just kind of walking. And I had somehow gotten ahead of the crowd, and walking behind me, about 4 feet behind me, a skunk was walking right behind me. And the people, the rest of the group was between the skunk. The skunk was between them and us, and them and me. And they were just going nuts, thinking if he turns around and sees that skunk behind him, he's going to go running, meaning me.
Freak out, yep.
And they never told me the skunk was there, and then the skunk took off and went somewhere else. So anyway, that's what that skunk is doing there.
All right, and the last one here, Bud. The headline of this video, as you have determined by your comments, will be Bud calls Knicks a JV team. Before we depart, would you like to apologize to Knick fans for that comment, or are you standing behind those words?
Well, what I think I said is that they will be representing the JVs.
There you go.
In the NBA Finals.
Oh, that's less insulting. I see.
Yeah.
They
so
the headline stands and the comment stands, is what you're saying.
Yeah, they're going to play the varsity as a JV team. And you go back to your high school days when the JVs would scrimmage the varsity. What would happen? Okay. That's what's going to happen in the NBA Finals. Particularly now, I assume that the Thunder are going to show up. And we're assuming, for this argument, that the Knicks will show up. That'll be the JVs versus the varsity.
I've already mentioned Rocky and the Russians, so I'll go to a real-life thing here. I remember Lemoyne basketball coming into the Carrier Dome and taking on Syracuse, and guess what happened? Uh-oh!
But you keep mentioning the idea that there are teams out there that
it's a 7-game series. Is that what you're going to tell me? It's a 7-game series.
No, I'm going to say that this team, until proven otherwise, Oklahoma City, will not fall for SU saying, "Oh, it's just Lemoyne. We can roll out the balls and win the game." They're not like that.
Oh, really?
They're not. This Shea is not going to let them do it. Holmgren, they got too many guys who say, "Hey, let's go kick some keister here. We're not taking anything for granted."
Here's the one pushback thing I'd offer on this, and this is not being crazy Knick fan. This is having perspective and having watched sports for many years, as you have as well. All right? There have been many, many years in the NBA where I was like, oh, my God, the West is loaded. The East, or the East is loaded. Wow. The West, And then what happened? We get to the finals, and the team in the lesser one wins handily. And I'm left scratching my head saying, how did that happen? They were all the good and the best one came out, and somehow that's what it kind of feels like this year, Bud. Feels that way. Nobody's talking about the East. Nobody's talking about the Knicks except for the nutty Knick fans, of course, because we love to talk about them in bombastic fashion whenever we get a chance to, because we're so starved for a championship. But I'm offering perspective here that a lot of times we think one side's way better than the other. You said, the Spurs and them, and throw in the Nuggets too. I don't know who else you want to. Way better than anyone in the East. I'd offer to you, it looks like that sometimes. So they don't play each other all that much in this NBA slate. And then you get to that 7-game series, and you got the coaches maneuvering, and the players a little more motivated, and defense, dare I say, kicks in the playoffs. Suddenly you got yourself a little dogfight. So I'm telling you, this game could be a little bit more of a dogfight than you think it's going to be, rather than varsity versus JV.
Well, let me tell you that the best defense in the league is played by Oklahoma City. So if you're saying, oh boy, defense kicks in, that's even more reason why the Knicks don't have a shot. Because when Oklahoma City does rev it up, and that's what they do. They play basically full court. You're going to watch it. I know you're going to watch every second of it. You'll see what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I probably will travel down to New York for part of it if it gets there. So if we get it. So see a little bit of that in person with the other nuts. The nutcases out there on the street.
And maybe you can talk about Willis Reed and Dave DeBusschere.
Of course we will. Of course we will. We will reminisce about the greats in New York Knick history. Albeit we do have to go.
Remember, you guys trotted out a front line that featured 6'6" DeBusschere and 6'5" Bill Bradley. Okay?
Yes, I
do you think that team, what would that team do in today's NBA?
Yeah, well, again, you can't compare eras like that because everybody was smaller.
What you keep talking about it? You Knicks fans keep
saying they're a great team, and this is a great team. It's coming together, Bud. It's the glue at the right time. It's happening when you need it. Lightning in a bottle, Bud.
Right. Look,
lightning in a bottle.
I know we got to end this, but wait a minute. You Knicks fans think that those Knicks teams are like the only real teams that came along. Oh, what a team they were. Do you know how many great teams there have been? They're just another in the pantheon of teams. But you Knicks people with your New York media, you've glorified these people. You've put them on there as if this is the greatest team that league has ever seen. You know what their motto was? 12 men, 12 cabs. That's how much of a team that was. Okay? they didn't like each other. Now, they played well on the court together. 12 men, 12 cabs. That was the Knicks motto.
That's not this team, Bud. These guys all party together. They hang out together. They love each other. Got the Villanova thing going, everything.
Now, having said all that, I love Brunson. I mean, why the Mavericks let him go is completely insane. But Jalen Brunson seems to be a really good guy, and he's a terrific player. And man, when you need a basket, you need a run, you want Brunson on your side.
Hey, let me ask you this. All right, this will be the last question. I promise. We're out of here. All right, but one more Nick thing. This was said. I heard this said on another radio show this week, national radio show. But I want to bring it to because I was thinking it as well. If Jalen Brunson wins the title with the Knicks this year, they go the whole thing. I know you say it's not possible. I'm going to say for a moment here, it's possible.
Yep.
Is he now the greatest Knick of all time? Does he pass Clyde Frazier? I know Clyde has 2. Does he pass Ewing? Okay, who never had any. All right. Does he become the greatest Knick in the history of Knick world? Yes or no? Why are you pounding your head?
Why do we go there? Why can't we
love to as Knick fans go there? We love to do stuff like that.
Why can't we just say, wow, Brunson? And by the way, no. First of all, I hate the question. No. I hate the question because so the suggestion is that if somehow the Knicks don't win, somehow that diminishes Brunson.
No, it doesn't diminish him. I'm just saying diminish him. I'm going to call him the greatest Knick in the history of the Knicks. I mean,
but you're saying that if he wins if he succeeds over these 7 games,
yes.
Never mind the 10 years. Oh boy, in these 7 games, this cements something. Number one, I hate that. Okay, Ernie Banks. Yeah, no, okay. Okay. But secondly, this idea that we always have to anoint somebody as being the best Knick, the best quarterback, the best pitcher. Why do we do that? Why do we do that?
Because we're fans and you're not. And that's always been a problem with you since the very first.
Well, there you go. I asked a question, I got an answer.
Got an
Okay.
answer. You don't know how to be a fan, and the rest of us do. And you'll never be one, and you'll never understand the fan. And I've said that to you forever, and it forever will hold as a truth. You'll take that to your grave, as will I. All right, Bud, as always, entertaining, engaging. I appreciate it. No apologies coming, folks. The headline stands. Bud calls Knicks a JV team. Extra. Watch all about it. All right. Thank you, Bud.
All right, Jimmy boy.